My husband and I are 28 now, 3 children, and he's the only boyfriend I've ever had. We've been together since high school. I've always known he's struggled with self-esteem. I've had my own battles too, but his were heavier. 7 years ago, we upgraded our phones. Same family plan. Somehow they synced in a way that let me see his messages. He could have seen mine too, but I don't think he ever realized it. For a while, I only peeked now and then. Around his birthday, around Christmas, I'd use it to figure out what he wanted, so I could surprise him. It felt harmless, even thoughtful. But one November, I was pregnant with our second child. I looked again, hoping for a clue about a gift. Instead, I found a message that made my heart stop. He had written to someone, "Where can we meet?" At first, I thought it was an affair. My chest tightened, but as I read on, I realized it wasn't another woman. He was trying to buy drugs. That alone was a shock. We don't even drink. We're boring in that way. But then came the part that hollowed me out. He wasn't buying something to get high. He was buying something to end his life. I tore through our bedroom that night. Every drawer, every corner, nothing. Later, while he slept beside me, I opened his emails, his browser history, and there it was. Searches for lethal substances, notes on cremation costs, even the payout details of our life insurance policy. It looked like he had chosen a date. 3 months after I was due to give birth. I remember sitting on the floor of our room, the quiet pressing in, my stomach turning. The man I loved, the father of my children, was planning to leave us behind, and I didn't know what to do. The idea that he was planning to be gone, that he was going to leave me and our children on purpose, it shattered me. The next morning, while he showered, I took his phone. I found the thread, and I ended it. I wrote back, "I'm no longer interested. If anyone else contacts you from this number, ignore them. They're not me." Then I deleted it, blocked the number. He never knew. From that moment on, I made it my mission to show him he mattered, that he was wanted, that his family needed him. Even if it made me look foolish, I didn't care. I started slipping little gifts into his lunch bag. When he came home, I greeted him like he'd been gone for months, running to him, hugging him, kicking him, telling him how much I'd missed him. I told him he was handsome, even in front of others. I called him at work just to hear his voice, just to ask how long until he'd be home. Every single day, I made it clear I loved him. I couldn't do this life without him. Eventually, I convinced him to try therapy. One night, I couldn't sleep. I woke him. I told him I had a nightmare that he died. He looked at me and asked, "Why is that a bad thing?" That simple question broke me. My everything. That outside of our kids, he was the reason I woke up in the morning. He said, "Wouldn't things be better if I was just out of your way?" I told him no, that if he left it would ruin me. He said, "But if you were financially fine, things would be okay." I told him I didn't care about that I'd rather be poor and harm him than rich and alone. And I meant it. He looked at me then, really looked at me and said, "I didn't know you felt that way." And I told him without hesitation that I did. After that, I asked if I could join him in therapy. He agreed. I told the therapist I thought my husband was depressed. And for the first time, he admitted that maybe he was. He started medication not long after, and little by little, things began to shift. It's been 5 years since then, and I still go out of my way to remind him he matters. I still call him handsome. I still bring him flowers sometimes. I still cheer when he walks through the door because I never want him to doubt, not even for a second, that he is the center of my world. He doesn't know what I stopped him from doing, and I plan to keep it that way. But here's the other side. I hate my life. I hate being a father. I hate what my life has turned into, and I hate that I saw it coming and still walked right into it. I never really wanted kids. I wasn't adamantly against the idea, not at first, but deep down I knew it wasn't for me. When I got married, my wife knew how I felt. I told her plainly, maybe 1, definitely not more. That was the line. But as our friends started having kids, I noticed something. It looked miserable. Even the parents we still called easy kids looked worn down. The joy they showed felt fake, forced. They were sleep-deprived, anxious, their marriages cracking behind closed doors. I saw the truth through the cracks in their curated lives. Parenthood was a trap. Then without warning, my wife's sister died, and everything changed. Suddenly family became the most important thing in the world to her. I understood the grief, I really did, but it lit a fire in her that I didn't share. She started talking about legacy, about giving her parents something to live for, about honoring her sister's memory. I told her I still didn't want kids, but she wouldn't let it go. She wore me down. And then her parents stepped in. They pitched me a dream. They'd sell their ranch, move into a house down the street. You won't be alone in this, they promised. We'll be hands-on. We'll take care of everything. You just need to be the provider, the 1950s dad. Show up, earn a paycheck, be present when it matters. We'll handle the rest. And I let myself believe it. Show up, earn a paycheck, be present when it matters. That's what they told me. They would handle the hard parts. And I let myself believe it, like an honest-to-God fool. They made parenthood sound like a Disney montage. Happy meals, first steps, Christmas mornings, school plays. And they left out the screaming, the resentment, the endless sacrifices. I let them show me the highlight reel, and I ignored my gut. I got played, and I let it happen. We had our son. The first years weren't great, but I told myself it was just a rough start phase. He screamed constantly, never slept, defiant even as a toddler, but I waited for the tide to turn. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Eventually, he was diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, a formal way of saying his default mode was to fight. Not because of trauma, not because of an hidden issue, just because. He resisted. He escalated. He tested every boundary. Vindictive, cruel. Now he's 11. And that diagnosis feels like a life sentence. Every day, a war zone. Where are Grandma and Grandpa now? Gone. They said he was too much. They tapped out when he was 4, said they needed space, and I haven't seen them lift a finger since. Tonight was the tipping point. I came home from work, 6th day in a row, to find my son spitting on the neighbor's doorknob. Why? Because they got an Amazon package by mistake and waited until evening to bring it over. I told him it wasn't okay. I didn't yell. Just told him that wasn't how we act. He stormed upstairs, opened the attic, and pissed all over the one box of childhood memories I had left. Photos, letters, pieces of my parents, both gone before I turned 20, the only things in my life that felt sacred. Just because. And now I'm sitting in my car, in a dark parking lot at the neighborhood park, phone in my hand. I don't know if I'm going back tonight. I don't know if I want to. This isn't a cry for help. I don't want advice. Don't tell me it's about discipline or parenting styles. I've done all of it. The books, the therapy, the behaviorists, the coaches, the specialists. Reward charts, consequences, gentle parenting, tough love. Nothing has worked. The only constant in this mess is me and my weakness. And here's the part that cuts the deepest. I knew I didn't want their life, and I let myself get talked into it anyway. I didn't speak up when it mattered. I didn't hold my ground. I let guilt and emotion and some twisted obligation to be the good guy steer me straight off a cliff. And now I'm 45, crying in my car, mourning a life I never lived. My marriage is hanging by a thread. My wife, who once swore we'd do this as a team, has checked out. Sometimes I feel like a stranger in my own home. The resentment runs so deep I can't even look at her without hearing echoes of those promises. You'll never have to do this alone. But I am alone. I hate what my life has become. I hate that I lost my freedom, my peace, my identity. I hate that I let myself get trapped in a role that doesn't fit. I hate how it's aged me, how I'm less patient, less kind, less human than I used to be. And yes, I hate my son, or at least what he represents. He didn't ask to be born, but he's the embodiment of every bad decision I made. And I feel guilty for that too. guilty for resenting a child, but there's no outlet for that guilt. No safe place to say it, so I shove it down, and every year it gets harder to keep it there. If you're someone out there standing on the fence about having kids, let me say this as clearly as I can. If you're not absolutely certain, don't do it. Don't do it because your partner wants them. Don't do it because your parents want grandkids. Don't do it because you think you'll grow into it. You won't. And the cost of that mistake is everything. Your time, your money, your marriage, and not least of all, your sanity. It's not reversible. It's not a rough patch you can outgrow. It's a 24/7, forever commitment. And when it's bad, it's hell. And if the people who promise to help disappear, you'll be the one left holding the wreckage. So that's my story. Not just that I hate my life. Anyone could guess that. But I had a chance to avoid it. I saw the red flags. I felt the doubt. And I said yes anyway. Because I was weak. And now I live with that choice every single day. But my story doesn't end there. I was 21 when my life changed in a way I never could have predicted. It started with something small. Coming home late from work, stopping at a gas station, buying a lottery ticket without much thought. I didn't even check the numbers that night. The next morning, eating stale cereal in my too small apartment, I pulled up the results. And that was the moment I realized I had just won the lottery. $14 million. Most people think that kind of thing is a blessing, a dream. But I can tell you now at 33, having carried this secret for more than a decade, winning the lottery didn't make my life feel richer, it made it lonelier. I live in one of the few states where you can claim your winnings anonymously. If not for that, I don't think I could have kept it to myself. But I did. I haven't told a single person, not family, not friends, not co-workers, and that was intentional. I didn't grow up with much. Scratch that. I grew up with nothing. My parents were textbook alcoholics, volatile, neglectful, always broke. By 18, I was on my own. No support, no guidance, just me. And the understand that if I wanted more out of life, I'd have to claw it out myself. But when I won, I stayed silent. Not because I didn't want to share good fortune, but because I knew what would happen if I did. My parents would reappear with apologies and outstretched hands. My cousins, people I barely knew, would show up with sob stories and entitlement. And my so-called friends, I'd already seen how they acted when someone was doing just a little better than them. The envy leaked out like poison. If they knew I had millions sitting quietly in an account, I'd never have a normal relationship again. That's the part no one talks about. When you come into money like this, you start to see everyone differently. Every compliment feels like a setup. Every hangout feels like a negotiation. And the truth is, the people around me didn't actually change, but how I saw them absolutely did. And it made me question whether any of those relationships were real to begin with. So I kept my job. Solid, boring, middle income. It gave me cover. I bought a modest condo, paid in full, told anyone who asked that it was a gift from a deceased relative. I picked up a Ducati, but busted off as a massive year-end bonus, and I let people believe what they wanted to believe. I even bought a small boat. My friends think I picked it up on credit. Some attempt to impress women, to get them out on the lake. I let them believe what they want. It's easier that way. What gets to me most is the paranoia. I don't flaunt money, not because I'm humble, but because I'm terrified. Terrified that if someone digs too deep, if they get suspicious, the illusion I've built will unravel. And then what? Then I'm the guy who's been lying for years, the one they resent. Not because I won, but because I didn't tell them. But how do you tell someone something like that? How do you look a friend in the eye and say, yes, while we were eating ramen in college, I had 7 figures in my bank account. Or, hey, remember when you couldn't afford rent and I didn't help? That was a choice. 'Cause that's how it would feel. Even if it wasn't that simple. The truth is, I have helped. Quietly. Anonymously. I donated to my old high school under a fake name, so kids like me could afford supplies. I paid off medical bills for strangers who crowdfunded online. I bought a car for a single mum working 2 jobs. She thinks it was a dealership promotion. I've tried to use the money for good, but none of it fixes the loneliness. None of it brings connection. I haven't had a relationship last more than a few months in years, because I can't trust anyone enough to share what's really going on. You can't build love on a lie. But telling the truth, that might cost me everything. Some nights I wonder if I'll ever tell anyone. Maybe one day I'll meet someone who makes me believe they'd still love me if I was broke. Or maybe I'll write a letter. A letter to be opened after I'm gone, to let the people I cared about know the truth. That this life of secrecy was never about the money. It was about trust, and how little of it I could afford to give. It's strange. People think the worst confessions are tied to crimes or sins. But sometimes the darkest secrets are one that look like blessings from the outside. The ones that force you to live a life so carefully constructed that not even your closest friends know who you really are. So yes, I won the lottery. But there are days I wish I could go back to being broke. Anonymous. For real, not just pretending. Because pretending gets heavy after a while. Back in 2009, I died. And I don't mean that metaphorically. My heart stopped. My brain shut down. The lights went completely out. And somehow, they turned them back on again. I had a traumatic brain injury so severe that for 3 days, no one thought I'd make it. My family prepared for the worst. Doctors kept their words vague, grim. And if there was any miracle to be had, I was told later that I burned through every ounce of it, just to survive. And that's what I did. Survive. Except I didn't walk out of that hospital as the same person who went in. I was someone else entirely. When I say I have permanent amnesia, I mean it in the most personal way imaginable. I don't remember my childhood. I don't remember the sound of my mother's voice, or the way her face looked. For a time, I didn't even recognize my own reflection. The first 2 decades of my life might as well have belonged to someone else. That history, those emotions, that foundation people build their lives on, gone in a flash. The hardest part wasn't losing the memories, it was living in a world where everyone else still had them. People would tell me stories I was supposedly in, laugh about things we had done together, ask if I remembered this person or that place. And all I could do was nod or fake a smile. The truth is, no, I didn't remember any of it. And saying that out loud every single time was exhausting. It took me almost 5 years to even begin to accept that this is my new reality, that my past wasn't just missing, it had been erased. But the amnesia, that was only the beginning. As time passed, I noticed something else was off. I couldn't feel fear. Not the way I used to, not the way I assume other people do. A dog growling in my face, a car swerving toward me, someone is screaming inches away. Right, nothing. No spike of adrenaline, no cold sweat, no instinct to run, just silence. Like my brain skipped a beat it used to know by heart. It wasn't until I went back to the neurologist that it all clicked. My amygdala had taken a permanent hit. The part of the brain that processes fear, that tells us we're in danger, that sends the body into survival mode, damaged beyond repair. And losing fear, it might sound liberating at first. People imagine it as some kind of superpower, but it's not. It's a curse. Because fear is a boundary. It's what keeps us from doing reckless things. It's what stops us from crossing certain lines. And without it, you start to wonder what's left to hold them back. I lost more than fear. I lost the emotional bond with my wife. It wasn't instant, but it was irreversible. I couldn't connect with her on that deep, visceral level anymore. It was like watching someone cry from the other side of a window. You understand it, but you don't feel it. Eventually, that distance became too great, and our marriage crumbled. It wasn't fair to her, and I don't blame her for leaving. But the emotions I did keep, they ring louder than ever before. Love now feels all-consuming. When I care about someone, I care to the point of obsession. I want to shield them from everything in this life, wrap them up, never let them go. There's no middle ground, it's all or nothing. And anger is worse. It bubbles up like lava, erupts without warning. I don't lash out, I don't scream, but I feel it tight in my chest, like it could tear through my skin. My hands clench so hard my knuckles crack. Most times I isolate myself, stay still, breathe through my teeth, grip a desk like it's the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. I've never hit anyone, never raised a fist. I'd like to say I never would, but it terrifies me to know that if I did, I might not stop. That's why I hide it. That's the real confession. Most people think I'm calm, collected, maybe a little aloof, but polite. What they don't see are the mental gymnastics I go through every day just to keep it together. To not scare anyone, to seem normal, whatever that even means anymore. They don't know I screen my emotions like a TIA agent on high alert. That I monitor my tone of voice, my facial expressions, the way I hold eye contact. They don't know about the 1,000-yard stare I slip into when I'm overwhelmed, or how I have to snap myself out of it before anyone notices. I don't share this because I don't want pity. I don't want people to hear me, and I don't want them to think I'm unstable. But I am more than just a little. And I guess that's the point of writing this, of sharing it here anonymously where no one knows my name or my face. To say that surviving something doesn't mean you walk away unscarred. Sometimes you survive as someone else entirely. I know I'm not the man I used to be. Truth is, I don't even remember that man. But I try. Every single day, I try to be someone safe. Someone who can love. Someone who can listen. Someone who doesn't let the darkness win. So if you ever meet someone who seems a little off, a little disconnected, maybe even a touch too intense, just remember they might be doing everything they can just to hold it together. Pretty much the way I do every day of my life. My daughter was born with a body that fought itself from the very beginning. Multiple congenital defects. Every organ seemed to come with a caveat. Doctors would fix one thing and something else would break. She was a medically complex child from day one. And I don't think there was ever a moment in her life when we weren't dealing with some kind of complication. She lived for 11 years, and if I'm being honest, she probably lived 9 years too long. That isn't something I say lightly. It's a hard, ugly truth that I had to carry, and one I can barely look at straight on. I fought for her life like a soldier, with no backup plan, and I never stopped to ask whether that was a battle she wanted to keep fighting. Her life was spent mostly in hospitals, months at a time. Sometimes only a few weeks at home in between, and when she was home, we weren't really living. It felt like we would just wait for the next hospitalization. I don't think she ever spent more than 2 consecutive months outside a hospital until we signed the paperwork for palliative care. She was more comfortable in the hospital than she ever was at home, and that reality breaks something in me. She knew the halls of the children's wing better than her own neighborhood. She knew every nurse by name, every machine by sound, every routine by heart. That sterile blinking world became her comfort zone. She was a warrior kid. That's how the staff knew her. The one who made cards for nurses. The one who insisted on decorating every piece of medical equipment with glittery stickers and bright tape. Her IV poles looked like something out of a child's art show. That was her world. Not school. She never got to go. Not sports, she was never healthy enough to play. Not piano recitals or sleepovers with friends. Just doctors, nurses, shots, surgeries, exhaustion. And I let that be her life. I gave her that life. It wasn't until the very end that she stopped being the fighter I knew. In those final 6 months, something shifted. She was tired. Not the kind of tired that rest or pain meds could fix. She was done. She told me so in her own way, again and again. She said she just wanted to stop, but I refused to hear her. I couldn't. Because if I let myself hear it, it meant letting go. It meant accepting that my child, the one I had dragged through endless procedures, was now asking me to stop dragging her. I pushed back every time, told her we were almost there, that the next surgery might be the one, that this new medication might give us more good days, and made promises I knew I couldn't keep. She stopped arguing eventually, went along with it, but she smiled less, she grew quieter. And when she passed, it wasn't easeful. I told myself it would be, but it wasn't. She died agitated, upset, scared, I think, but not scared for herself. I think she was scared for me, scared of what would happen to me if she let go. She knew I wasn't ready, and I hate that. I hate that she died worrying about me. That's what it all comes down to. I wasn't strong enough to let go. I forced her to keep fighting a battle she was ready to walk away from. I thought I was doing what any parent would do. I thought more time was always better. But time without quality, without peace, without dignity, it's just suffering with a longer clock. I'm haunted by the nights I told her to hold on, knowing she had nothing left to hold on to. Haunted by the looks she gave me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Looks I now understand were her trying to tell me she was done. She was so strong, braver than anyone I've ever met, and I wish I'd given her the same courage back. I wish I had just said, okay, that I had sat with her in the quiet and told her, you don't have to fight anymore. But I didn't. I held on until the very end. And that cost her. If there's a confession here, it's that I was selfish. I didn't mean to be, but I was. I needed her. I needed her to be here, because the idea of living without her felt like being crushed under a mountain. And in trying to protect myself from that pain, I let her live longer than she should have. I let her suffer more than she needed to, and I'm so sorry for that. It's been years since she passed, and I still do the math in my head. How old would she be now? What she might be into? Whether she would have liked school if she had ever been healthy enough to go? Whether she might have found joy beyond hospitals and machines? But the truth is, I'll never know. That's what I live with now, the weight of having fought so hard for a life that was always half-lived. And the fear that the person I loved most in this world spent her final moments trying to comfort me. No child should have to do that. So I carry this guilt with me, and maybe sharing this confession here with strangers who might understand the impossible choices we sometimes face will lift a small piece of that weight. Or maybe it won't. But either way, someone needs to hear it. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do for someone you love is let them go.